You need marketing help and you are stuck deciding between hiring an agency, bringing in a fractional CMO, or going full-time with a senior marketing leader. And the problem is everyone has an opinion, but very few people actually explain the trade-offs clearly. Having worked agency side as a fractional CMO and as a full-time CMO, I can tell you exactly where each model works and where it tends to break down. In this video, I'm going to break down all three: what they actually do, how much they cost, when they work, when they don't, and which one actually drives revenue depending on your stage of growth. By the end of this video, you will know which option actually makes sense for your business right now and which one will just slow you down. A marketing agency executes campaigns and tactics. When you hire a marketing agency, you get someone to run your ads, write your content, send your emails, or manage your social media. The biggest strength of an agency is that they can execute at scale. However, they execute what you tell them. So if your strategy is wrong, execution does not matter. A marketing agency may cost you anywhere between $5,000 to $25,000 a month, depending on the services you choose to get from them. A fractional CMO builds the strategy, diagnoses what's broken, and fixes the systems. Essentially, you are bringing a senior marketing leadership part-time. I believe the biggest strength of a fractional CMO is strategic thinking and diagnosis. I want you to understand that a fractional CMO does not execute day-to-day tasks. You still need someone to run the campaigns. On average, expect anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000 a month to hire a fractional CMO. A full-time marketer is different. This is someone inside your business building and executing your marketing day to day. You've got a dedicated person, 40 hours a week, fully focused on your business. But this gets expensive fast. And more importantly, if you hire the wrong level for your stage, it usually does not work the way you expect. A senior marketer might cost you anywhere between $80,000 to $120,000 a year. A VP of marketing is more like $150,000 to $200,000 a year. And if you bring in a full-time CMO, expect anywhere between $200,000 to $350,000 a year plus equity. So which one actually drives revenue? It depends on your stage, your budget, and what's actually broken in the business. An agency works best when you already have a lot of the thinking figured out. You know your target audience, and you've got a decent sense of which channels are working, and your messaging is mostly there. At that point, you do not need someone reinventing the wheel. You just need someone to execute, someone maybe to run the ads, send the emails, or push content. And that's where marketing agencies tend to be the strongest. They are execution focused. You give them a clear brief and they will run with it. This setup usually makes the most sense if you're in the $1 million to $3 million range of revenue. At that stage, hiring a VP of marketing does not make sense yet, but a $5,000 to $10,000 a month agency can work. It keeps things moving while you stay focused on product and sales. In a way, the marketing agency bridges the gap between early scrappy execution and actually having senior marketing leadership in-house. If you need someone who is really deep in a specific skill set, like paid search or conversion rate optimization, hiring full-time usually gets expensive fast. And honestly, it's often more than you need. In those cases, a marketing agency can make a lot of sense because you're basically renting access to specialists. Instead of hiring one person full-time and hoping they're great at everything, you get a team that already lives and breathes that specific channel or skill without the overhead of a full-time hire. I want you to also understand the scenarios where a marketing agency is more likely to fail. If you do not have a strategy, your agency is most likely going to fail. I've seen businesses hiring agencies to generate leads. However, they do not have a documented ICP or positioning. An agency cannot execute a strategy you do not have in the first place. They will execute something, but it will not work because the foundation is broken. Marketing agencies are hired to execute. If you expect them to diagnose why growth slowed down, or rebuild your ICP, or fix your funnel, or maybe even think like a CMO, you're going to be disappointed. That's not what they are built for. Agencies work with 10 to 20 clients at the same time, and you're one of many. And every change requires a call, an email, a briefing. If your strategy is changing weekly, which is very common at early stage companies, agency overhead becomes expensive. In-house moves faster. Agencies are perfect for execution when you have a clear strategy, but they are terrible if you need strategic thinking or your strategy is unclear. If your company is doing between $3 million to $25 million in revenue and the growth has started to slow down, this is usually where a fractional CMO makes the biggest impact. Maybe you were growing 40 to 60% year over year, and now it's slowed down to 15 to 20%. That's normal. The playbook that got you from $2 million to $10 million often stops working at the next stage. At this point, the issue is strategy. A fractional CMO helps identify what's actually holding growth back, whether that's the wrong ICP, the wrong reporting, disconnected teams, unclear positioning, or wasted marketing spend. Then they fix the constraint, build the right systems, and create alignment so growth can scale again. This is the stage where fractional leadership delivers the most value. If you need senior marketing leadership but are not ready for a full-time CMO yet, the fractional CMO model is often the smartest next step. Maybe you are at $8 million in revenue and know you need experienced leadership, but hiring a full-time CMO does not make sense yet. A full-time CMO can easily cost north of $250,000 a year, and in many cases, there is not enough true CMO level work to justify the 40 hours a week work. On top of that, a lot of founders are not even sure what kind of CMO they need yet. Operator, builder, or a strategic leader. That's where a fractional CMO fits. You get senior level leadership at a fraction of the cost without making a massive long-term commitment. They help build the foundation, put the systems in place, and create clarity around what the business actually needs. Then when the time is right, you can hire a full-time CMO with far less risk and a much higher chance of success. If you've already gone through a few marketing agencies or marketing hires without seeing real results, the issue is direction. Maybe you have hired 2 or 3 agencies and there has been plenty of activity, campaigns, meetings, reports, but you do not see revenue growth. Or maybe you brought in a VP of marketing, gave them almost a year, and still nothing worked out. That's a common problem. And most of the time, the issue is that the strategy behind the execution was never right in the first place. A fractional CMO steps in to diagnose what's actually broken, whether it's your positioning, messaging, your target audience, your channel strategy, reporting, or team alignment, and fixes the core issues first. Once the strategy is clear, execution becomes much easier to scale and much more effective. Let me also share with you the situations where a fractional CMO does not work. If you are pre-revenue or you're still under $2 million, bringing in a fractional CMO is probably too early. Right now, you're still figuring out things. What messaging works, who the real customer is, and which channels actually drive demand. This stage is all about testing, learning, and moving fast. You do not need a senior marketing executive building long-term strategy yet. You need scrappy execution and quick iteration. A fractional CMO usually makes more sense once you have crossed the $3 million mark and need help scaling what's already working. If what you really need is someone to run Google Ads every day or write content every week, you do not need a fractional CMO. Fractional CMOs are there to lead strategy, make decisions, and build the marketing function. They are not usually the person inside the ad account adjusting campaigns daily or writing blog posts. So if your main need is execution, you're better off hiring a marketing agency, a freelancer, or maybe a full-time marketer who can own that work directly. If you don't have a budget for execution, a fractional CMO is not going to be the right choice. A good fractional CMO might cost anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000 a month. So if your entire marketing budget is only $20,000 a month, that leaves very little to actually run campaigns, create content, improve the website, or support sales. And strategy without execution does not go very far. For most businesses, fractional CMO starts to make sense when there is enough budget for both leadership and execution. If your total marketing budget is under $40,000 a month, it's probably still too early for a fractional CMO. A fractional CMO only works if you're willing to make changes. Because once they get inside the business, they're going to challenge things. They may tell you to cut the channels that are not producing results. They may change your ICP, rework the budget, fix reporting, or make changes to the team. That's their job. A strong fractional CMO is not there to protect the status quo. They're there to identify what's slowing growth down and fix it. So if the business is not ready to make hard decisions, a fractional CMO might not be the right choice. You will end up paying for the diagnosis but never acting on it. A fractional CMO is a great fit for businesses in the $3 million to $25 million range that have real growth potential but clear strategic gaps. But they are usually the wrong fit if you're still too early, you mainly need execution, or you are not willing to make the changes inside the business. A fractional model works best when a company is ready to scale and needs experienced leadership to help make that happen. If your company is already spending $40,000 to $100,000 a month on marketing, a full-time CMO usually starts to make more sense. At that level, there is enough complexity and day-to-day decision-making to justify having someone fully embedded in the business. You need someone managing the team closely, overseeing budget allocation, aligning with sales and leadership, and making decisions in real time. That's hard to do in part-time capacity. Once marketing becomes a core operational function inside the business, full-time leadership is usually the right move. If you need someone deeply embedded in your business, fractional usually is not the right fit. Fractional is part-time, and marketing agencies sit outside the business. But there's a different level where marketing leadership needs to be fully inside the business. That looks like someone who understands the product at a deeper level. They sit in on product and leadership meetings and work side by side with sales, customer success, and the rest of the team every single day. When marketing starts touching product decisions and shaping how the business operates internally, you need someone full-time in the seat. If you already know what works and you have a clear marketing playbook, you do not need a fractional CMO. At that point, you have already figured out the strategy. What you need is someone to run it day to day, maybe keep the campaigns moving, manage the team, optimize performance, and scale what's already working. That's where a strong full-time operator comes in, whether that's a VP of marketing or a full-time hands-on CMO who is great at running the machine and improving it over time. If you're more than $30 to $40 million in revenue, marketing usually gets too complex for part-time leadership. At this stage, you're likely managing a 5 to 10 people team. You're spending maybe $50,000 to $150,000 a month across multiple channels, and you're juggling a lot of moving parts at once. There are more decisions, more coordination, and more pressure to connect marketing directly to revenue. That's when full-time senior leadership becomes necessary. You need someone fully in the business. You need to guide the strategy and execution together. Most CMO hires fail because of the mismatch with the stage of the business. You bring in the wrong type of leader for the problem you actually have. Sometimes it's the opposite of what you need. You hire an operator who is great at scaling and running a tight marketing system, when what you actually needed was a builder to figure out what actually works in the first place. Or you hired a builder when the business is already past that stage and needed someone to optimize, manage, and scale what's already working. In both cases, the person was not the issue, the fit was. That's why so many CMO hires fall apart, because the role did not match the stage of the business. If you're under $5 million in revenue and you hire senior marketing leadership too early, it usually does not end well. Let's say you're at $3 million and you bring in a $180,000 VP of marketing. They show up expecting structure. They want a team, a solid budget, and a clear strategy to plug into. But most of the time, that's not there yet. So they start building based on what they have done before at bigger businesses or bigger companies, and it does not really fit where you are. A few months in, things don't move, so the frustration starts building, and within 6 to 12 months, they are gone. Now, it's not because they were not capable. The problem was the timing was off. In a lot of these cases, a fractional CMO could have made much more sense first. They could have figured out what actually works and built the foundation before going full-time. If your strategy is not clear yet, a full-time hire will not fix it. If you don't know your ICP or target audience, or what channels work, or what messaging actually works, they will just end up executing in the wrong direction. Execution without strategy does not move the needle. Figure out the strategy first, whether that's you or a fractional CMO, then bring in full-time help to run it. Full-time is not just about salary, it's salary, benefits, equity, onboarding time, and management overhead. And also the risk of it, what if it doesn't work out? The VP of marketing that costs $150,000 a year, the real cost is closer to $200,000. If that's more than 15 to 20% of your marketing budget, you're probably not ready yet. At that point, fractional CMO or a marketing agency support makes much more sense until the budget can actually support a full-time hire. A full-time CMO works when you've got real scale, enough budget, and a clear direction. But it falls apart when you are early, you're still figuring out strategy, or hire the wrong kind of leader for that stage. Timing and fit matter more than the title. Here is the framework I use with clients to help them find the right fit. If you're under $2 million in revenue, you do not need a full-time CMO. An agency or a junior marketer in-house is usually enough. You're still testing, learning, and figuring out what actually works. If you're between $2 million and $10 million in revenue, this is where most businesses sit in the messy middle. You usually need both strategy and execution. So a fractional CMO paired with a marketing agency or a small team tends to work best. If you're between $10 million to $25 million in revenue, things get more serious. You are either using a fractional CMO to tighten things up first, then hiring full-time, or you already have a clear direction and bring in a full-time CMO. And once you're north of $25 million, it's pretty straightforward. You need a full-time CMO and a team running it day to day. If you don't know what's broken, maybe your strategy is unclear and things are not connecting, you need a fractional CMO. They step in, figure out what's off, and fix the direction. If the strategy is already solid and you just need it executed, go with an agency or an in-house team. There is no need for senior leadership at that point. If you need something very specific, say like paid ads or SEO, bring in a marketing agency that specializes in that. You get the depth without the cost of a full-time hire. And if you need someone fully inside the business every day, in your meetings with the team and owning everything end to end, that's when you go in-house CMO. If you're under $20,000 to $30,000 a month on marketing spend, go with a marketing agency. You just do not have enough budget to split strategy and execution yet. But if you are between $30,000 to $80,000 a month, that's the sweet spot for a fractional CMO. You can afford strategy with a fractional CMO and still have enough left for an agency or a small team to execute. If you are north of $80,000 a month, you've got options. At that point, you can bring in a full-time VP or CMO and build a proper team around them, or still lean on marketing agencies depending on how you are set up. If your strategy is clear, you know your target audience, your channels and messagings, then you do not need high-level help. Go with a marketing agency or an in-house team. Just focus on execution here. But if your strategy is unclear, you're not sure what's actually working, that's a fractional CMO situation. You need someone to step in and make sense of it before you scale anything. If your strategy used to work but does not work anymore, it's the same thing. Something broke. A fractional CMO helps figure out what changed and fixes it before you start spending more to scale the wrong direction. You don't have to pick just one model. I've seen the best setups being usually hybrid. You might use a fractional CMO to set direction, a marketing agency to run campaigns, and maybe a small in-house team to keep things moving day to day. It's not either or. It's about matching the right resources to the right job. The most common setup that actually works is a fractional CMO paired with a marketing agency. The fractional CMO comes in a few hours a week. They figure out what's not working, they shape the strategy, and get clear on things like who you are targeting, how you are positioned, and which channels you should actually focus on. Then they brief and guide the marketing agency so everyone is pulling in the same direction. They also keep an eye on performance and adjust the course when needed. The marketing agency handles the day-to-day execution like running ads, writing content, sending emails, or pushing the campaigns. All in, you're usually looking at something between $20,000 to $40,000 a month. This tends to work really well for businesses in the $5 million to $20 million range. You've got enough complexity that strategy matters, but you're not quite at that point where you want to hire a full-time CMO costing you $250,000 a year. Another common setup is a fractional CMO first, then a full-time VP of marketing. In the first 3 to 6 months, the fractional CMO comes in and cleans things up. They figure out what's broken, they fix the strategy, and get the basics in place. Things like reporting, the processes, and a simple playbook for how marketing should actually run. They also help you hire the right VP of marketing and get them set up properly. Then once that person is in place, the fractional CMO steps back. From there, the full-time VP marketing takes over, and they run day-to-day execution, scale what's working, they manage the team, and keep the marketing machine moving. This setup is usually common in the $10 million to $25 million range businesses when you're ready for full-time leadership, but you do not want to get that hire wrong. If your problem is unclear strategy, a fractional CMO is what actually moves more revenue. They fix the direction. A marketing agency will not. They will just execute the wrong plan. And in-house can work, but only if you have hired the right strategic leader. If you're dealing with poor execution, then a marketing agency is what drives revenue. They run things properly and consistently. A fractional CMO won't fix that because they're not there to execute. And in-house works too if you got a strong operator. And if you have a lack of leadership, that's where fractional or in-house makes the difference. Agencies cannot lead, they can only execute what they are given. If you're still not sure which option is right for you, I can help. I offer a 15-minute custom recommendation call where we will talk about your revenue and stage, what's working, what's not, your budget, and whether you need strategy, execution, or both. Then I'll tell you exactly which option makes sense for you, whether it's an agency, fractional, in-house, or a hybrid. And if it's not me, I'll tell you what to do instead. I'll put the link in the description below. Have a beautiful day.